is why you come to Nullify Now. This is why you should never be embarrassed or ashamed to say that, yes, I believe that this isn't a leap of religious faith here, that we believe in nullification. We don't believe in it. It's the law. We believe in the law. I mean, this is legal. This is the legal remedy here. Not only is the rightful remedy, it's the legal remedy. And that's what John Taylor is telling the House of Delegates in Virginia in December 1798. And he goes on to say that if these guys get away with this, we'll never have redress. We'll never be able to petition our government for a redress of grievances. And then he asked the people, the delegates there, what was despotism? How do you define it? Well, he defined it as concentration of powers in one man or one body of men. See last argument. They have the power. They will not be told no, even by their own courts. So, do we live under a despotism? Show of hands. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Individuals and states were equally affected by such a concentration of power. The concentration of it in an individual would enslave other individuals. Concentration of it in Congress, he warned, would operate to the destruction of state governments, and that if the balance of power which the state governments ought to hold against Congress were lost, we must be precipitated into a revolution. And then he warned that revolutions always lead to civil wars. To prove which, he asked, what produced the war between Britain and America? Oppression. What produced the revolution of France? Oppression. What produced the revolution of the United Provinces from Spain? Oppression. Taylor then said the way to keep a nation quiet was to make it happy. Don't oppress it. In justification of this opinion, he stated that the people of the United States were at this time under the pressure of certain grievances. The way to stop them, then, was to stop oppressing them. But a gentleman in the back of the room said, oh, Mr. Taylor, we can't disunite. To which Taylor said, well, sir, if you wish to not disunite, stop oppressing me. He then concluded by saying that our rights were the offspring of pangs and peril. Let them never be wrested from us. It was the custom in some countries for the prince, then he tells a parable. It was the custom in some countries to send for the prince, to send for the firstborn child of every subject, to have him trained as a soldier for his army. In that case, could the distressed parent be assured that by surrendering the firstborn, that he would be buying security for the second, third, and fourthborn? Now the answer to the question is no. Well, okay. If the American people of Virginia, North Carolina, etc., were to surrender their American rights, the first of which was the free examination of public servants, and if we surrender that one under the promise that they're not going to take any more, would the rest of them be secure? Well, no, they weren't. That these rights were the fruit of a victory that they had achieved through blood, treasure. They had defended them against the arms of Great Britain. And then Taylor concluded that, never then let us surrender them to the arts of sophistry and ambition. Well, unfortunately, we did surrender them, and we can only read about what they did in the aftermath. So Taylor's a tough act to follow. But let me conclude with what you just heard and what we just learned with a very bold statement about nullification and interposition here that even Nancy Pelosi can endorse. Here it is. Write this down. The process of nullification makes the federal government stronger because it chastens it before acting outside its authority. The process of nullification and interposition makes the federal government stronger because it chastens it before acting outside its authority. So in other words, once you tell it that it's not the judge of the extent of its own powers, once it knows that to great public embarrassment and disgrace that it is going to be reprimanded for exceeding the authority that we have blessed it with, and there are grave repercussions to this, which there should be, then it'll stop doing it. So it'll make our federal union stronger. It won't weaken it. The libs' argument and Mr. Levin's argument is that it weakens. No, we're going to take all the power away from the federal government. No. No one that I know of that wants to nullify any act of Congress wants to nullify all of them. Most of us don't want to live without some kind of general government to protect us if there's an invasion, or to make treaties with foreign nations as they're supposed to do, or, gosh, regulate the value of currency. All right, they don't do that one. But to nullify or to interpose is not a trivial or careless act. You very selectively pick the ones. The Affordable Care Act's a big one. Should be nullified, should be interposed against. These Real ID Acts, it requires to carry around as biometric identification cards. Look, if you so desperately want to get one of those, I know where you can get one. It's called the Visa. It's called MasterCard. They even have little holograms on them that are very difficult to forge. If you so desperately want a biometric ID card, go buy one. Hire Apple to make them. They'll sell millions. It is unnecessary. It's an unnecessary and unconstitutional abuse of power. So, if nullification and if the states reclaiming their footing, and this is not going to happen just because we want it to, as Diane said, this is a long process. You have to educate a lot of people, and when enough people like the ones that gathered in Fredericksburg get angry enough about it and decide that their very life and liberty and property is what is at stake, and decide to do something about it, that's when it will happen. But without conferences like these to educate people and to tell them what their birthright is, because I'm not here to tell you to, I have no horse in this race other than, like you, I have children. I'm under no compulsion or can't think of any reason why I would come up here and would fabricate all of what I just told you. Other than, number one, it's true, as far as I can read the source material in the history books, and then number two, it's beneficial. It is beneficial to the existence of a general government that the state governments are equal partners. Remember, in the ratification debates, Diane talked about this too, Judge Iredell lied. He did. He lied. He said what he needed to say to achieve ratification. But in his lie, he did use the word agent. When we can reclaim the idea and begin to think about the general government as our agent, it's our friend. It does some things that we think all the states ought to agree to, very few things, and that we ought to let it do things that have to do with dealing with foreign nations so that we speak with one voice in most of those activities. Then it is a better and stronger government. It acts then as our agent. It's not our master. Without the states being members of, and you heard also earlier in my remarks, the word compact. Look it up. You lawyers out there, got any lawyers in the room? One guy goes. Ask a lawyer what a compact is. You heard Madison and Jefferson and every human being alive in 1798 describe the Constitution as a compact. That is a voluntary agreement between consenting parties. We consent to be governed by the state of North Carolina. The state of North Carolina consents to be governed in part by the federal government. We do not consent to live under a tyranny or a despotism. And that's why we're here to nullify and nullify now. Thank you. God bless you.